Welcome back. Today we're going to be taking a look at the Garmin Forerunner 245 and how it compares to the Garmin Forerunner 745. This is actually a comparison I've wanted to make for a really long time, but I haven't had a 245 in my possession. But recently I got my hands on a Forerunner 245 and I've been comparing it side by side for about a week, so I think I've got a good grasp on who these two devices are for. I do want to thank this video sponsors over at playbetter.com that sent me this 245 for the purpose of this video. That's pretty helpful. If you do decide to pick up a 245 or a 745 or any Garmin for that matter, check out playbetter.com because they offer free 2-day shipping and free returns with a 60-day return policy, which is pretty awesome. And for viewers of this video, if you use the code CHASE30 at checkout, you'll get 30% off any accessory on your order. That could be a watch band or a heart rate monitor, any accessory, it doesn't matter, 30% off. And of course, I'll have links in this video's description that do help support my channel, but it costs nothing extra to you. With all that jabber out of the way, let's get into it. In terms of the design of the 245 and the 745, you'd be hard pressed to tell them apart. They look nearly identical. Both watches are completely made out of plastic except for the buttons, where you'll see stainless steel on both watches. However, the buttons of the Forerunner 745 are actually black or gray colored, and on the 245 they're shiny stainless steel. Up around the back of both watches you'll find Garmin's Elevate 2.0 heart rate sensor that includes an SpO2 sensor to read your blood oxygen saturation level, and of course on both watches you do have Garmin's proprietary charger, so both use the same exact charging cable. In terms of size and weight, the 245 is slightly lighter and smaller than the Garmin Forerunner 745. The Forerunner 745 comes in at 47 grams and the Forerunner 245 comes in at 38 grams. The Garmin Forerunner 745 is overall a larger watch, but not by much. It is 44 millimeters in diameter, where the Garmin Forerunner 245 comes in at a little over 42 millimeters. Not much of a difference there. Honestly, on your wrist, they're both very light and unobtrusive. They don't get in the way, they don't get hung up on door corners and things like that. Both the 745 and 245 include a silicone band in the box. However, the 245 does have a slight advantage because it has a quick release pin on the band, so you can swap them out for different colors as you please. The 745 actually requires a tool to remove the band. Not that big of a deal though. Both the 745 and 245 feature the same 1.2-inch memory in-pixel display. However, I do find that the backlight on the 245 is slightly more vivid with a little bit more contrast compared to the 745, but that just might be luck of the draw and manufacturer variation. The lens material on both watches is very similar. However, the Garmin Forerunner 745 has a Gorilla Glass DX display, where the 245 has a Gorilla Glass 3 display. The only difference is that the 745 has a more anti-reflective coating on the front. So as you can see here, if I angle them towards my light, the 745 is a little bit easier to read than the 245, but both are very legible in direct sunlight. It's not that big of a deal. Both watches feature very similar sensors. You've got the heart rate sensor plus SpO2 or a pulse ox. You've got an accelerometer built in, and of course you've got GPS plus GLONASS and Galileo built in. Both watches do have a compass built in, but that's about where the similarities end. The 745 also has a barometric altimeter built in, where the 245 does not. And where that makes a difference is when you're in an activity and you want to see current elevation, you can do that with the 745 and you can't do that on the 245. This altimeter also lets you take advantage of Garmin's Climb Pro function, which is really cool. It gives you a graphical layout of climbs and descents and what you've got ahead of you, and you can use that on the 745 while you cannot use that on the 245. Another sensory difference is that the Forerunner 745 has a gyroscope built in and the 245 does not. This makes a difference when you use the extended battery life mode of the watch, where the 745 can estimate distance a little bit more accurately than the 245. But honestly, neither are great in that department. I don't love battery saver mode, so I'm not sure how much I'd pay attention to that. Both the Forerunner 745 and 245 have a very similar user interface. They've got the same widget glances, which kind of truncate the widget views on the home screen to make it a little bit more readable so you can see more data at a glance. They've got a very similar widget set with weather, calendar, notifications, all that smartwatch stuff. And both watches will track wellness data like steps, stairs climbed, active calories, stress, and body battery. Body battery is basically a way of tracking your energy throughout the day. If you're running or if you're awake and walking around, you're burning battery life, whereas if you're sleeping, you're actually recharging. And the goal is to get to 100% while you're sleeping and then burn it down throughout the day. Both the 245 and 745 support offline music. However, with the 245, you do need to pay up $50 to get that functionality. The base model 245 does not have built-in music, only the upgraded 245 music, which I have here. Both watches can store up to 500 songs on the device. You can pair your headphones directly to them and run phone free, which is pretty great. But do keep in mind that that will burn down your battery life a lot quicker than if you weren't playing music. In terms of battery life, that's where the 245 does stand apart from the 745. You've got up to 24 hours in GPS activity mode, or about 7 days in standby or smartwatch mode, whereas you only get up to 16 hours on the 745 in GPS mode, or up to 5 to 6 days of standby time. Another major difference between the 245 and 745 is the activity profiles that are available between the two watches. The Garmin Forerunner 245 is marketed directly towards runners, so there's things like run, treadmill, trail run, all those things, but not much more. You can of course use a generic cardio profile, and then after the fact you can change that in Garmin Connect. There's also no multi-sport or triathlon support on the Garmin Forerunner 245, while there is on the 745. The Garmin Forerunner 745 has all of the activities available that are on the higher end watches like the Fenix 6 or the 945. You've got things like hiking, canoeing, trail running, cycling, all the things are built into the 745 out of the box. In terms of navigation features between the 245 and 745, they're almost identical. The 245 and 745 do support breadcrumb offline mapping, which means you can design a course in Garmin Connect, then sync it with the watch, and then follow that course on the watch display. It's super handy, and it will tell you if you leave your course and tell you how to get back to your course, or how to get back to the beginning of your activity using the trackback function. However, this is not full-blown offline mapping like what you get on the 945 or the Fenix 6. If you want a full in-depth comparison between breadcrumb navigation and full-blown mapping on Garmin watches, I did make a full video about that you can find linked up here. That'll explain this in more detail. I'm not going to spend too much time on that in this video. In terms of GPS accuracy, both these watches are pretty darn similar. However, for whatever reason, I've said this in a bunch of my videos, the Garmin Forerunner 745 continues to be the more accurate device here. I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's the intended design or what magic they're doing here, but the 745 is one of the most accurate GPS watches I've tried in the course of my YouTube channel. The 245 is no slouch, but I did find that it drifted a lot more than the 745 in all of the runs I've done. I've done multiple runs. This isn't just one sample, and this is just broadly speaking over all of those runs. They're both acceptable, but if you want the most accurate GPS tracks, 745 is the way to go. In terms of heart rate accuracy, again, almost identical here. They both have the same Elevate 2.0 heart rate sensor on the back, and they're nearly identical. I didn't really find any differences between the two. That's to say neither sensor is perfect. When I compared it to something like this Polar H9 heart rate strap, this is super accurate, but chest straps are always going to be more accurate than the wrist-based sensors on the back, and honestly none of the wrist-based sensors are perfect yet. That said, these are both totally acceptable when it comes to heart rate accuracy, and I don't mind using either one. Let's talk about the final difference between these two watches, and that'll be the price. The Garmin Forerunner 245, like I've already mentioned, comes in two different flavors. You've got music and non-music. For the non-music, it's $300. For the music, it's $350. The Garmin Forerunner 745, on the other hand, only comes in one version. There's no non-music version here, and this comes in at $499. And that brings me to the conclusion of this video. Who are these watches for? Well, I think it's pretty straightforward here. The Garmin Forerunner 245 is for runners. If you're a runner, go for the 245. I'll save you all the hassle of comparing the specs side by side and doing all the things. If you only run, there's no reason to buy a Forerunner 745 unless you want the most accurate GPS accuracy. I would just go for the 245, save $150 and buy a new pair of shoes. But, and this is a pretty big but, that didn't sound right. If you swim, if you ride a bike, if you do triathlon, multi-sport stuff, the 245 is not the watch for you. If you do any of those other activities, the Garmin Forerunner 745, the 945, or the Fenix 6 will be the best options for you. And out of those three, the 745 is the most affordable, so this is probably the one you'll be looking at if you're looking at the 245 as an option. Both of these watches are fantastic devices. They're just for two different people. And that brings us to the end of this video. If you made it this far, you probably liked it, so you might as well hit that thumbs up and subscribe button down below. Really helps out my channel more than you know. And if you want to see more comparisons like this, let me know in the comments down below and I'll see what I can do. And let me know what you think of the Forerunner 245 versus 745. Which one's the right one for you? Whew, I did a lot of talking today. I'll see you in the next one.